Today, we're diving deep into betrayal, infidelity, and the emotional aftermath. Why do people cheat, even when they love their partner? What drives repeated cheating or secret behavior? And most importantly, how can couples heal after trust is broken? Valeria interviews Nicola Beer, a relationship and trauma therapist with over 20 years of experience helping couples and individuals navigate infidelity recovery. Nicola believes that cheating is often a coping mechanism, sometimes even an addiction, and that full recovery is absolutely possible when both people are committed. Today, she'll walk us through what really happens emotionally, psychologically, and relationally after betrayal, and how to heal from it. Nicola Beer is also a psychedelic retreat facilitator. She blends sacred plant medicine, primarily Huachuma, San Pedro, somatic therapy, and conscious relationship work to help individuals and couples heal emotional wounds, release stored pain, and reconnect to their inner truth. Nicola runs private healing retreats in Southeast Asia and hosts 2 podcast shows, Healing with Psychedelics and Relationship Revival. Her work focuses on turning trauma into transformation, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Podcast Healing with Psychedelics. Meet Nicola at nicolabeer.com and plantmedicinepower.com. Here's the interview with Nicola Beer.
Aloha, everyone. This is another Quest for Wellbeing podcast interview, and my beautiful guest today is Nicola Beer. Nicola is a trauma-informed therapist, relationship expert, and psychedelic retreat facilitator with over 20 years of experience. She's also a podcaster and also a speaker by being, even if you're on my podcast just today, then you become a speaker officially. So I have to say that. But before, this is my brief introduction to Nicola. The full bio will be within the podcast notes. The first question that I love asking all my guests is, how would you introduce yourself? Who is Nicola in her own words in this very moment?
So I'm a specialist in helping people with relationships and trauma so that they can live their best lives and be free and happy. And I do this because of my own journey healing, which took a long time, but was a wonderful journey where I've kept growing and enjoying my life more and more. So I'm one of those people that really believes that life gets better and better every year that we age.
I love that. What's not to love about that message, that reminder, really? How did you get here in a sense of doing all this beautiful work that you're doing? Like, do you feel that there was a calling since you were very little as a child, or it was something that just unfolded?
Yeah, it was definitely a calling. So I grew up in a household where my mum was really struggling. So she had depression and bipolar. And so she was very aggressive, very stressed, very anxious. So sometimes that would come out in violence. Sometimes that would come out in emotional hurtful words, and sometimes that will come out in collapse. So growing up, I learned that love isn't safe, that people can change from instant to instant. And I had a lot of trust issues and a lot of fears that I'm not safe, I'm not good enough, I make people angry, I'm stupid. You know, there were a lot of things that went into my core beliefs at such a young age. And I also, seeing my mum struggle so much was really scary, because sometimes she would break down and cry and would say that she wishes she was dead. And sometimes she would hit herself in the mirror and beat herself up. And it was just really scary. And so from that, I always had a real deep empathy for people struggling, because I knew really at a young age how hard it is when you are struggling, how awful it is when you do feel so low or so helpless or like you're going crazy. And when we talk about the calling, I remember when you're sort of 14, 15 at school and they ask you what you want to be. Well, we have these like personal achievement records, and you sort of write like a bio of what you would like to be when you grew up. And I wrote in there that I really wanted to help people and work in social work and help people. And I looked back and I thought, I didn't even know what those terms mean. I didn't even understand. And it was a shock. And that it definitely has been a calling. And my career took a different path when I first started. And it led me straight back to the work that I do, which is helping people with their relationship problems and then with their inner world. So anxiety, low self-esteem, things that, come from trauma early on.
Right.
So that's what I do now. Yeah.
Wow, how beautiful. I love everything about it, of course, but there's the piece that it resonated deeply with me when you said that's why I feel the empathy. Like I have this, and I feel the same way. Like I have a hard time seeing people suffering, and I just want to help them. Do you also have the understanding that sometimes we cannot help certain people? Because I'm learning that lesson little by little. That's
absolutely, yeah. Especially, definitely in my work life, because you can only help people that really want to help themselves, that are ready to take action, that are there, that have some possibility. And sometimes, it's your role to show them what's possible. But if they don't take the actions, or if they're in a real blame victim mode, and it's you do your best to help them get out of that, but they're really stuck in that. Maybe they're benefiting from that real strong victim mode, then it's very difficult to help them, because the story that we tell ourselves creates our reality. And if they're not willing to shift that story, it's very difficult. And unfortunately, that they end up suffering. In my relationship life, that has been a challenge more, because I do like to rescue people. I have a pattern of that. It really pulls on my heartstrings. And so that's been something that I've been working on for a long time, to not stay in relationships because I want to rescue, because I feel the person's pain, or also not to be attracted to people who need rescuing. And so that's been a journey, but one I'm aware of, and yeah.
Oh, I love that awareness, though. You see, that's to me, that's inner power, like a divine, sacred inner power, knowing these things. And you are very clear about that too. But then sometimes, as you said, it still work. So it's interesting, right, Nicola, that it's it's a day-to-day, moment-to-moment life. It's so dynamic. It's a living thing. It's so alive. It's not something that we can kind of create this almost like a goal, I'll never do this again as a statement, and then that be it. There's something about doing the work, and that's why I'm always doing the work of awareness, meditation, all these things, as I'm sure you do too. It's a lot of people that I know. So the topic is why people cheat, how to heal betrayal, addiction, and rebuilding trust. So talk to me about this, the general, let's say almost like the introduction to a description for the topic. I know that I have a lot of, have outlines here with specific, almost like guided questions, not even questions, those are just speaking points. But before that, so one of the, perhaps I can ask you the question that was within the topic that you sent to me. So why do people cheat even when they love their partner? That really caught my attention immediately when I saw that question.
And it happens so often. I mean, this is something that I work with every single day. 90% of the work I do is affair recovery, betrayal recovery. And there's so many different types of cheating, which we can come to. But the reason that people cheat, even though they love their partner, is often because of emotional avoidance. So people are fixing their feelings by avoiding, let's say someone's going through a really stressful time in their work, their finances, with the children, let's say at home, whatever stressful situation. And then they pick up their phone, they sex someone, they message someone, and it's an escape. It's a relief. Someone's going to give them some attention, make them feel important, make them feel desired, that gives then that dopamine hit. So it's an escape for a lot of people, and that's why it's really prevalent. And it means that, often people will say, well, that person means nothing to me, or this situation means nothing. I just did it for a relief. Sometimes I work with men who will go to massage parlors and things like that because they want to escape the pressures at home or work. And then another main reason is the trauma and wounds that we have. A lot of people that didn't get a lot of attention as children, had low self-esteem, maybe from bullying or other reasons. They sometimes will cheat because the self-esteem boost, it makes them feel like I'm validated, I'm seen, I'm wanted, I'm desired. And so they go through this cycle where they get that hit from somebody else, and then it goes, and then they need to keep going back. And it can be quite addictive. Occasionally people cheat because of unmet needs, and this could be within their relationship, the sexual unmet needs. It can be the emotional distance sometimes, where people don't feel seen or heard in a relationship. Or it can be just a need for more excitement, more adventure. But unmet needs isn't the main reason. The main reason normally is that emotional avoidance, avoiding their person's emotions or the previous trauma and the wounds. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. That is, I never heard it that way. I think I interviewed some, and I read a lot too about relationships and all that. And because I never had the experience. I guess I had the experience of my ex-husband being very flirtatious. He's a musician. He's always, oh my God, like every woman, he would just in front of me, he would just kind of try to, what do you call, enchant them, or kind of, he was just very charming, and he would, so that was something that I experienced, but not infidelity like that. That must be really tough. And so that comes from, because also what I think is about health, because I'm like a health freak in a way. Gosh, I'm so all about health. So that would concern me that, if I have a partner that they would go sleep with somebody else, and then, diseases and all that. So is that something that also happens? I'm wondering if that happens with the transmission of disease, especially dangerous ones like AIDS.
It definitely can, and sometimes, unfortunately, that's how some people find out. They find out because they've gone to the doctors and they've got an STD, and they're like, "What's happened here?" I don't, and then they confront their partner, and then the partner confesses. But I would say, like, the physical cheating, the sex, it isn't as prevalent as the other forms of cheating. So the going to the massage parlors, or the digital, the online cheating. So, I define cheating as anything you wouldn't do if your partner was sat there next to you.
Right. Oh, I like
something,
that.
Breaking the ethical boundaries, the emotional boundaries. So there's a lot of people that will message exes for extra attention, or they're on Instagram and other social media, telling people that they look hot, and then starting sexting from there and messaging from there. So all of these forms of cheating are just as painful. And sometimes a person might say, well, I haven't actually, slept with that person, but it's just as much pain when someone's emotionally involved, or just doing it for their own, self-pleasure and attention. And the reason that I believe like cheating, or I see cheating as like an addiction, is because it carries, like other addictions, some really common themes. So there's often the denial. It's not that bad. It's nothing. It's harmless. I had a guy recently messaging like 30 different women. Right. Another lady, she met men on gaming, and she also messaged like 20 people. So it's just saying, it doesn't mean anything. So the denial's there, the minimization, that I'm not hurting anyone, it's not that much of a big deal. I'm a good husband apart from this, or I'm a good wife apart from this. The things that people minimize to say, and the secrecy, the hiding, the lying, that adds that extra addictive pull into it. So in these ways, it's very similar to an addiction. And also the dopamine hit. So the way that our dopamine works is we get a hit every time we have a message come back. We get a bit of attention from whether it's our messages or whatever platforms we're using, and compliments if it's in person. So these are all little spikes of dopamine, which then can become very addictive to people. And what I learned about dopamine is that even just the fantasy, the idea, and that's why those messages are so can become so addictive to people. That's what gives the dopamine hit. It's not actually as much the physical act of meeting that person. So people think, oh, I'm not really doing any harm. I'm just flirting. I'm just doing this. Well, actually, you are creating harm, obviously, to the person that finds out, and it's forming an addiction. So that's how I see it, as an addiction. Yeah.
Wow, it very much the way you describe him, yes, it fits exactly that profile. It also, what comes to me is the personality type. Is that also connected to personality disorders like narcissism? Because that's what it sounds like. There's somebody that would do that, lie, cheat, and it basically not caring for the other people's feelings. It's just there's a lack of empathy there. It feels to me. It's that is my observation somehow accurate or part of the topic?
So you're saying that there's a lack of empathy when they're doing these things?
Yes, and I'm wondering if that has to do with narcissism. It's NPT, right? Narcissistic personality disorder. If that is a personality disorder.
So there are definitely some people who do cheat that have a lack of empathy, and when they're caught, they say, "Okay, well, this is what men do, or men need variety, or this is just men's banter," or women may say like, "Get over it. It's not a big deal. I'm sorry." You do get people like that, but I would say that's the minority that I work with. The majority of people do have a lot of empathy. They can't believe what they've done, and when it all comes to light, they're like, "I can't believe I've hurt you. I can't believe I'm so bad. I can't believe I've done this." They have immense guilt and shame, and they just don't realize that this has become like a pattern that because it's like an addiction, their mind's not even aware of what they're doing. And I compare this sometimes to where people have like a car accident and they can't remember what happened, or people go through a traumatic thing and their memory sort of doesn't show them things. And I see it like that. Like you are not going to think, if you really love your partner, you're not going to think of the other person and all the bad things you're doing and think about them at the same time, because that would really upset you and hurt you. So the mind sort of blocks it, doesn't, it's like compartmentalizes. And so many people are able just to compartmentalize the two and not bring them together. But often when they do come together, when everything does come out, that's when they are devastated. They are like, wow, I can't believe what a horrible person I am. And I can't believe that I've done this. So not everybody, of course, but that's exactly what you need for any rebuilding in a relationship. The person really needs to be remorseful and say, I never want to do this again, because I'm disgusted in my behavior, not because I don't want to hurt you or upset you. I don't want to be this person. I can't believe that I've got addicted to this, or I've got hooked on this, or I've crossed my own ethical boundaries. And that's a sign of, okay, this person could be worth rebuilding the relationship with. But if there's no remorse, if there's no taking responsibility, one of the worst things that can happen is, when a person blames their partner. Oh, wow, well, you weren't there for me, or you didn't make sex exciting. I mean, that's just a double insult, because you're never responsible for someone else's behavior. We're all responsible for our own actions and our own behavior. So taking responsibility is essential, and also making sure that they fully disclose all the information. This is when couples get really stuck at the beginning, is because the person's been caught and then they think, right, I really want to save this relationship. I'm going to give them the minimal details to save it, but also give a little half truth, little truths. And then the person is obsessed with it, because what happens when you get cheated on is your mind just will not stop thinking about it. You become obsessed about it.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
a trauma response. So then they'll start looking and searching and searching and searching, and then they'll find more, and then they confront them, and then they give a little more half-truths or little truths, whatever you want to call them, and then it'll happen again and again. And that's what makes that's one of the reasons that the discovery is so painful for the person that's been betrayed.
Right, and I can see that. Do you work more with somebody who has cheated or somebody that has been cheated on? What is the
So I work with them both. So I have like a program where I work with the cheater to get to the root cause of why they've done it.
Right.
And to really identify, why are you doing this? Often there's low self-esteem. Yeah. There is, with a lot of men that do it that I work with, they start watching porn when they're like 10, 11, 12, 14.
Wow.
And then they learn as a really young teenage boy that when your parents annoy you, when you're stressed at school, when a girl rejects you, porn, self-pleasure, that is your sort of way to escape. Bored, loneliness, stressed, anxious, depressed. So they expose themselves at a very young age. And then what happens with porn is it gets boring. You need more, you need more, you need more. Right. Because the same thing as they grow into adults is not as pleasurable. And that's unfortunately how the damaging effect that porn has on the brain. It's just, it needs to escalate, a bit like addictions need to escalate for people to get the same drug hit, substance hit. It's the same. And so then people end up cheating. So for these people, like understanding, okay, is it what caused you to do it? What are you avoiding? What is it giving you with any addiction, with any pattern, behavioral pattern? Right. What is the benefit? And then people say, I feel alive, I feel seen. One man even said to me, well, it helps me to not overeat at lunch. So instead of eating at lunchtime, I'll go and have a massage. Wow. You know, so it's whatever excuses these people have made, they're doing it to sort of fix something else. So we look at what are the alternative ways to get attention in a healthy way. How can you raise your own self-esteem? How can you validate yourself? How can you stop these sexual urges, which is often released, you know, not watching porn for a long time, and, you know, natural ways of dopamine. So that's really what I do with the cheater. And then help the betrayed. So the betrayed, first of all, they need to know that the cheater is getting to the root of it. They're not just going to say, I'm really going to try, not, you know, use willpower and that's it. But they have a lot of really struggling negative thoughts. They feel like I'm stupid, I'm naive, I'm a fool because I didn't notice, I didn't realize. They blame themselves. Sometimes they even, which makes me really sad, is, you know, they think I'm not attractive enough, I'm not sexual enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, my body's not good enough. So they need to help clear all of that. And talk therapy for both of these situations isn't enough. You need to do sort of the deeper trauma, somatic work, you know, help calm the nervous system. Because a lot of people that have been cheated on, they can't eat, they can't sleep at the beginning. Their mind's just thinking, okay, where was I when you did this? Right. And they're trying to put a whole timeline. Sometimes these timelines of years, they want to go through. Telephone records, financial records, you know, so it's just their whole life has literally been taken over, and that can last for 1 month, sometimes longer. So I work with them to help calm that. And then if both in the couple decide we really want to make the relationship work, which tends to be most of them do that come to me anyway, then we look at, right, how to rebuild trust with actions, how to rebuild the connection with steps, because talking will do nothing, and saying I'm sorry and I won't do this again, put a plaster over it, it doesn't, you know, often it doesn't work. So you know, you need to go deeper with the couple.
I love that. Yeah, and you're very aware that it's a very sensitive kind of process, right, Nicola? You can't rush. I can imagine that too, that there's no really a time frame for recovery. It might take a while. And I'm wondering if some people fully recover from this, from being cheated on. Have you seen that happen?
So,
100%.
let's talk about the timeline and the recovery. So, the first month is the hardest, and people feel like they're going crazy, that they've lost themselves, and that's really horrible experience where you feel like, I never used to be like this, and now I'm worried every time you go out the door, or I get triggered every time you're on your phone. And they feel like they've lost themselves. And then the first 3 months is really difficult, and then it gets a little bit better for the other 6 months and the 8 months, and and the year. But it's never. There will always be, at least for the first 9 months, days where that person feels like, I don't want to get out of bed. This is too much. I need to end the relationship. I can't do this. There'll be difficult times where the trauma's really triggered, and that person may, feel like collapsing and feeling like it's just too hard. And one of the things that a lot of people do at the beginning as well, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to decide, do they want to be in the relationship? Do they not? And they spend the first months or so just trying to work it out. And it's like, don't try and work it out when you're in such fear that they're going to do it again, fear that you'll never get over it, fear that, all these fears that people have. Like, just focus on, let's just get through each day, and the answer will come to you, whether you're going to stay or leave later on. Do some people not get over it? Unfortunately, there are a few who they don't really do the deeper work. Definitely, if you don't do the deeper trauma releasing work, it's very difficult. And some people, their mind, they just keep going back and just thinking like, no, I just can't, it depends really. If someone's just like, they can't get over it, they just can't let it go. And because they don't want to let it go, because they're just too scared that if I let it go, then you might do it again. Or if I let it go, then I'm going to be hurt. But most people that want to let it go can. But of course, it's not always right to save a relationship after infidelity. It depends. If the person is saying sorry, but does it again and again, or if the person's just sort of blaming everything else and not saying it or not seeing it as a problem, then it's probably not a safe relationship.
Right. Wow. What my reflection in this moment is about relationships. It's not easy. And we already know that in a way, right? All of us. It's such a challenging world to navigate. I have been in 3 relationships, 3 husbands. It has been since I was really young. I got married, I was 18.
Wow.
So I didn't know anything about relationships, but then it didn't work because I didn't know much. And then I just went from one to another. And it also often doesn't work because I didn't do my own work. And all that. And then I waited probably around 5 years to meet again and marry somebody else. And that's Christopher, my current husband. But it's, I feel like it's, oh my God, Nicole, it's a pattern, isn't it? The question, I guess, the question that I have to ask, what would be a safe relationship? What does it look like? I know you give some interesting here guidelines and steps for what to do for the betrayed partner, what they can do, and then the person who has betrayed, how they can rebuild trust. But just a little bit off that, in the sense of more in a general sense, can you describe a healthy relationship, a safe relationship? I would love to hear that.
Sure, absolutely. So a safe relationship is where you can emotionally express yourself and be supported, where you can share your vulnerabilities with each other and the person listens and understands and supports you. It's where you can communicate your feelings and your thoughts and be supported and to be held. It's where you're safe to be yourself. You're not being trying to changed or directed in any way. You're able to be yourself and you're loved for being yourself. And where you thrive, where it lifts you up, where you feel, this is helping me to be the best version of myself. This is helping me to really feel alive, feel seen, feel good. You're not staying small or making yourself small.
Right.
So these are things that make a relationship good. And also having the same values, the same vision, the same values, wanting the same things, and agreeing on those things in big matters. Because you can have a good, passionate relationship, but if there's not that compatibility, then it also doesn't become safe.
Right. And that is so true. Yeah, thank you for saying that. About the emotional support and being able to be you without any hesitation. That's really important. Wow, that's a big one. I'm thinking here. It makes me think about my husband. Like, wait a minute, is he listening? Am I being myself around him? A lot of times, yes. And then there's some other times I feel like, because he had a lot of trauma to himself. So, so that's the part of us that tries to understand, right, the other person. And because I know everybody's different, so that's the part that we need to be more, let's say, more aware to, for say that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to excuse him, for everything. It's not easy.
There's kind of 5 things that I really love from David Rico that couples can focus on. And they're very simplistic, but they're so important. And it matters a lot after affair recovery, even for all relationships. And the first is the affection. So physical affection, showing that you care and that you're loving each other and you're holding each other and having that physical connection is really important. Appreciation, the amount of couples that will come to me and share, I don't feel appreciated, I don't feel seen, I don't feel valued, I feel taken for granted. So words of appreciation or tokens of appreciation. So that's the second A, the 5 A's. The third A is acceptance. So really accepting each other, accepting that there's differences, accepting that that's who they, who each other are. And that's so important. And then going a bit further to what we were talking about, being yourself, allowing. So it's one thing accepting someone that they're different and, not trying to change them, but also allowing the person to be who they want to be, allowing them to parent the way they're going to parent, allowing them to be themselves and do the things that make them happy. And then the last is admiring, respecting one another. Say, I'm really proud of you, or I love this about you, or this is great that you do, or just showing them. It doesn't have to be with words, but really thinking good of that person. These are the keys that really help relationships thrive long term. For affair recovery, in addition to those actions and steps, sometimes for a short term, people need to have more sort of trust focused conditions, let's say. So it could be, okay, please put a GPS tracker on your phone for 6 months. Please let me check your phone if I want to check your phone.
Right.
Can I have access to this? Now, these can be very important at the beginning to help a person that has been cheated on to have those kind of comforts. So that's coming to mind, but they're not really comforts, but just a bit of peace of mind. Okay, I can look at your phone. I know where you are. I know this. I know that. But these aren't really sustainable, and they're not something you would want in a relationship past 1 year. Because if you have to constantly check on a person, or even that can become addictive. I've had people where they've said to me that their husband, after they cheated, sends a photo of who they're with every time they go anywhere. And it was 3 years later, and I said, both of you're just reliving the affair. The man that's taken the photos and showing, like, he's reminded, I'm not over, I'm not forgiven. I've got to keep doing this. She's reminded, he needs to keep doing this.
Right.
And also the danger of that is that it becomes that parent-child dynamic.
Right.
If, it's not, for a thriving relationship, we want that equality, that passion, that polarity, not someone's got the sort of the parent role or the checker role. But they can be helpful in the first, few months to give people a little bit of peace if that's what their mind feels that they need.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, Nicola. What can I say? I'm trying almost to find words to express how I feel about all this. Like listening to you, it's painful and it's sad. I tend to kind of almost like visualize, people going through these wow, these situations. It just must be so difficult. And I interviewed somebody not that recent, 6 months ago, I think. Yes, I forgot his name, Larry something. So Balloda, I think, is Italian. He's a relationship coach, and he said something that shocked me. He said he was married for many years to a woman who was highly abusive, that she was treated him really horribly and emotionally abusing him for years. And he said he never left her because he felt like it was his responsibility to become emotionally, let's say, stronger. He felt like there was not some. If he left her, he would probably find somebody else who would do the same to him, because he knew he had to learn how to become stronger emotionally and not let her get to him. I mean, I never heard that before, because he said, in a way, he was explaining that physical abuse is really clear, and then we can just call the police, do something. It is so easy to detect. But emotional abuse is something that we are responsible for. We are responsible for our own, the way we perceive, we receive other people's behavior, and how we kind of deal with it. And it's our responsibility. That shocked me. I remember talking to him here, and I couldn't believe that he said that as a relationship coach. He stayed.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I definitely, emotional abuse can be just as painful and as difficult. And when people are manipulated, mind games, gaslighting, where you're making the person doubt their own reality and doubt their own needs. And I mean, that's happened to me before in a relationship, and it was really horrific. And I would say, with physical abuse, get out. If you're being emotionally manipulated, it's not always easy to see, and but the impact is just as damaging. And I'm sure that relationship coach has done whatever he feels is best for him, and that's good. I would say to work on it, you need to be free of that relationship, to go and get support and be like, end that relationship, or get support to be able to end that relationship and say no, because emotional abuse will really affect you. It will affect your beliefs about yourself, about life, about the future, and that makes it even harder to protect yourself, to escape. And words affect us in very difficult, challenging ways. So
I agree.
Yeah, we always, and that's when the cheating, like that can be in a form of abuse if it keeps on happening and the person isn't really taking responsibility or isn't really sorry. It's just very painful.
Right. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I remember disagreeing with him. I mean, I just said to him that I would, no, I would just leave. I wouldn't do that. But he explained in a very lucid way. He's a psychologist too these days. And he remarried. The woman died, I think, his ex-wife. Yeah, she died. And she was quite sick mentally too, a lot of issues. And so he felt like it would be something, if he was taking everything that she was saying seriously, then it's his responsibility. Like, why am I getting hurt for somebody saying things that are not true anyway? So he kind of we stayed so he would get strong in that sense, like of knowing, okay, this is me, this is you, basically. That's how you behave. It's almost like dealing with, a lion. Lions attack. And so this is who you are, so I can't really change. So he wouldn't even get in an argument or anything with her. He just so that was and you said also wisely, we're all different, right, Nicola? And not all of us can do that. So
Yeah. And it's still like, I agree with what he's saying. Okay, he's building his resilience, he's building his skills to not take things personally, but living in that negative energy still isn't nice,
I agree. I must agree 1,000,000,000%. I wouldn't do that. Yes, yes, yeah. I love being jumpy. I mean,
Mm,
I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that.
yeah.
But yeah, he did, and he these days he just. I mean, his presence here was very, very happy and free. He remarried too, so I was really happy for him that
Great.
he didn't let it get to him and traumatize him. so so talk to me about I know you offer your services, Betrayed Breakthrough Workbook and Healing Meditations. You also have the Affair Recovery Masterclass. And you also have a podcast, which you have 70 episodes published in the podcast title, Relationship Revival. Did I miss
Yeah.
anything?
So the Relationship Revival podcast has about 200 episodes, but there's 70 on this topic. So because this topic is such a place where people, find themselves struggling, there's 70 on this topic. Yeah. So it's Relationship Revival podcast. Yeah. And with that, there's the 2 free gifts. One is for person that's been betrayed, doesn't know what to do, needs some clarity, some healing meditations to help them just calm their nervous system. And then a Affair Recovery Masterclass for either the cheater or the betrayed or a couple that are navigating this and need some help. Yeah. So thanks for sharing those.
Wonderful. Yes. I wanted to share more and about also the online psychedelic coaching programs. I'm wondering if this is something that you wanted to, at the very end here of our conversation, do you want to mention about the psychedelic retreats? And I'm wondering.
Sure, yeah. So to help couples even deeper, sometimes people really can benefit from some plant medicine. Plant medicine, I work with San Pedro and I work with mushrooms, and they really help people to tap into their self-love, self-compassion, to have more empathy with one another. And so they're great for couples to be able to talk through difficult situations in that filled energy of deeper love and connection. Right. San Pedro is a beautiful cactus. It's from the Andes area, so Peru, Ecuador, and it helps people to get in touch with their emotions, so then you can release trauma. So that's why it's so good for trauma. Mushrooms also are very good for getting in touch with your emotions and having no fear, because it calms the default mode network, the part of the brain that constantly is stressed, anxious, keeps telling us the same things, and it quiets that so people can really feel their emotions without fear and then release. And so a lot of people have inspirational thoughts, buried memories come up to process in that safe container. So I take individuals or couples, it's very bespoke. I choose the location with them and we do some deeper work, and I find it, for myself, life-changing. It really changed my life. It changed my life in 2 ways. I was struggling with my relationship patterns. I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't stop the pattern. And the same with workaholism. I knew that I worked too much, and it was so hard to break that high achieving pattern. So they just help you to unlock sort of deeper wounds and really heal them and see what's possible. And so I do that with couples as retreats, or some people go and do their own retreat, and then they have all these amazing experiences, but they need to implement them and integrate them into their everyday life. And that's what I help people to do. So people do retreats wherever they are in the world, and then I support them to integrate their experiences.
Gosh, I love that. I mean, what's not to love about what you do? And I also really love the way you share your own experience, because that brings the vulnerable part of you too. As I mean, I just, I have a lot of devotion for that. So thank you so much, Nicola, for being you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's truly, truly beautiful. Everything that you're offering and the way you express your compassion too, I can see that by helping people with all these painful situations. It's just really, really, really beautiful. I want to mention the website. So it's plantmedicinepower.com. Are you also on social media, Nicola? YouTube?
Yeah, so my relationship website is also nicolabeer.com. And I'm on social media at Nicola Beer Official. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, Nicola Beer Official. So they can type in that as well. Yeah.
So that's good to know. So it's okay to add all these links and have those two websites in the case if I want to have those two
Yes,
here
please. That would
listed.
be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So for the end of our conversation, is there anything that you left unsaid or anything that you would like to add?
Just if you're struggling in your relationship in any way, just be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself, because we can be so hard on ourselves and expect ourselves to get over things, or we say, oh, I'm being stupid, I'm being silly. But what's really happening is we're often being triggered with really difficult things coming up from the past, and just to love yourself, to hold yourself, and to reassure yourself. That would be the best thing you can do.
Yeah, it felt like a guided meditation, like a prayer, listening to yourself. We all needed to be reminded of these things. So I will ask you this question that I haven't asked in a long time for some reason. So I'll ask you, what, just to end the conversation this way, what 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
Well, being a plant medicine facilitator, I would say having a San Pedro experience, it's like the most beautiful thing. It lasts 12 hours, the medicine, and you just have this over powerful feeling of just loving everything, feeling connected to everything, everyone, the plants, the earth. So that's definitely one. And then I would say really experiencing that connection with your soul, just feeling that spirit, that energy with you, that spiritual aliveness is just a beautiful experience, which you can, cultivate in different settings. For me, sometimes it's being around groups and where we're chanting, or I don't know, it's different for everybody at different times. Sometimes it could just be doing yoga. And just afterwards feeling that gratitude, feeling that aliveness, feeling that spirit in your body. And to really be loved. There's a lot of people in relationships where they're doing all the loving and the giving. And they're not really, sometimes they've got a wall or a barrier and they're not allowing themselves to be loved. And sometimes then they're not with the right people, or they're attracting the right people. So my hope and wish is that everybody really is loved and they really feel loved. And that doesn't have to be by a person, actually. It could just be by the universe. But that sense of really being loved is beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, a billion times to that. It always goes back to it. It's funny when I ask this question to everyone, I pretty much get the same answers. Love is always part of it, let's say. It's always there. Love and be loved. Yes. Thank you so much again, Nicola, for your beautiful presence and your wisdom. And we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. I'll end here just for the record, and then I'll talk to you off record.
Okay.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Nicola Beer and her work, please visit nicolabeer.com and plantmedicinepower.com.